Let's get this thing started. I'm super excited to have you on. I really wanted to add some value to our community and talk about how people could add income during these tougher times with higher interest rates and we still have low inventory. You're kind of a Swiss Army knife. So we're really going to be able to get into kind of how people getting started or people wanting to scale can make some more money. I'll introduce myself real quick. Jesse Burrell. I'm CEO of Batch Service. I've flipped and wholesaled over 500 homes. I also hold my real estate license. So we're going to talk about why it's nice to be an investor and hold your license as well. I don't actively do quite as many deals as you do anymore, but I have some personal houses and commercial stuff that I'll list from time to time, or if I'm looking to buy a new rental property and find something on the market, I'll use that as well. So still valuable to me, still getting big commission checks off stuff like that. But Erik, please introduce yourself real quick.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. Appreciate it. My name's Erik Hatch. I live in Fargo, North Dakota. We do most of our business in North Dakota and Minnesota. I've been in real estate as a licensed realtor since 2006, but went full-time in 2011. In the last, I think it's 16 or 17 years now, my team and I have sold almost 7,000 houses. In that, I myself, my best year, I was selling 150 homes a year myself personally while leading my team. We flipped about 100 houses. I have a rental portfolio of about 80 doors. So I've been in this game for a while, and it's been fun to be that Swiss Army knife, as you say, to try to pivot and provide huge amount of value to the people looking to sell their house.
Let's just dive into it. This webinar is really to talk about how, agents and investors really need to work more together to where it's going to fill both of their pockets up more. So let's start on the investor side and get your thoughts there. Investors who haven't done on-market deals, getting started could be intimidated. What are a few do's and don'ts for investors when they're contacting agents?
When it comes to working with a realtor, you have to understand that sometimes it's not the right fit. And I want to be clear on that. It's not the right fit because some realtors have no idea how to work with investors. Not all realtors are created equal. And what an investor is looking for is far different than what a traditional home buyer is looking for. And so I think that alignment with the right realtor or realtors, and even put a pluralization on that there, is going to be really important. Investors traditionally are looking for things that are off market. However, there are some good places that hit on market. And you have to understand when it comes to establishing that trust point. As an example, I said we've bought about 100 homes and flipped them over the last 5 years. We do about 20 a year. We have a database of probably 1,000 sellers that have raised their hand and said they're interested. And no, it's probably more like 500. A database of 500 sellers that's interested in selling with the easy button, right? If they can get the right price for their house, they're interested in avoiding it going on market. And so when you align with the right realtor, like, I'm super proud of my team because we're taking all those steps to make sure that we understand how to work with investors on the buy side, as well as how to find the sellers on market or off market. That's huge. But if you're working with a traditional realtor, they may be limited to just what they find on the MLS. And I will say this: MLS agents, MLS realtors, people who rely just solely on the multiple listing services, they're going to die a slow death here. This industry is demanding and commanding that we pivot and we work on finding off-market deals. So if you are going to work with a realtor as an investor, I think you kind of get two for the price of none. What I mean by that is you can get that seller to pay for our commission. You can get that seller to pay for the commission of a realtor, and then you can have somebody else who's actively hunting and looking and gathering for you. So I said a lot of things there in that, Jesse, but here's my summarization. Not all realtors are created equal. So don't just pick any realtor. If you have somebody that has a large database and is actively looking at finding off-market deals as well, you get somebody by your side. But ultimately, you should have a realtor that's willing to hunt with you and to help navigate and negotiate for you. And then hopefully they're paid by the seller and not by you.
Yeah. And, a lot of, like, Jamil Damji, who's one of our big partners that we work with, he really talks about agent outreach and, reaching out to agents to see, building those relationships, letting them know who you are, letting them know that you're looking for off-market deals or something's about to hit the market. Let me know if it's a fix and flip or a good buy and hold. You want to explain, your buy box to the realtor, but some of the value that you could add if you are a flipper or a wholesaler, you should have contractors, you should have roofers, you should have a lot of people in those home services if you're doing those things. If they don't have those resources, those may be resources that you want to share, because you don't want to just go into a conversation asking for something. Hey, do you have all these things? Because, as a realtor, when you have clients, buyers or sellers, especially if you're listing homes, you need to make sure you have resources if repairs need to be made. Do you have that handyman? Do you have that roofer? Do you have, all these different people? Do you have a good title company? Like, you want to be sharing some of the resources and networking that you've done to the realtor to start having a symbiotic relationship to where you're saying, hey, I care too. I'm not just reaching out to you so you could do something for me. How could I help you as well? Also, if they're working with investor buyers, hey, I get deals. What are your investors looking for? You could do business that way on the disposition side if you're a wholesaler, and say, hey, I get properties too. Are you working with investors? What are they looking for? And, when I come across something, you could be on my first round of phone calls to make sure they have first look, because now the realtor is looking really good to the investors that they're working with, because they're getting first access to deals, and deals that are not hitting the MLS, because there's great ways to continue to work with each other on both sides.
Yeah, well said, man.
And then next question for the investor. Agents are busy, investors want to work with them. I guess, how should investors approach an agent? Or if you were to get a call, what would you want that conversation to look like? I guess I just kind of went into it, but what's your aspect, or what's your look on that?
So here's a full transparency is we get a handful of investor calls a week. Somebody calling us up and saying, hey, if you have any good deals, send them my way, or I'm looking for something that is an off-market deal, pennies on the dollar. You and everybody else. I want to be really honest. It's everybody wants to find a deal. Deals are best found with the foundation of a relationship. So it would look like this. If I'm John and I'm that investor, call up your realtor and say, hey, I'd love to find out your experience in working with investors. What has that looked like? If they don't have any experience, it's probably not the right relationship. If they do have some experience, then you can say, boy, I'm really looking to add 5 homes to my portfolio in the next 12 months. I'm wondering if we can go and have a strategy session in which we can figure out how we can both grow together. If somebody calls me and says, I'm looking to buy 5 homes in the next year, 1 home in the next 6 months, whatever your parameters may be, if you're clear on that, and then if you're offering to actually get face-to-face, I will tell you the foundation of an investor is dollars. The foundation of a realtor is oftentimes relationships. I think you can exchange that either way, but a realtor is going to show up and traditionally work harder when they have trust established for that person. And so instead of just saying, hey, if you find anything, let me know, get face-to-face, the whites of the eyes, the connecting of the souls. And when you can do that, the likelihood of that person being a team member instead of just somebody who was a random phone call for you is that much greater.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate that, because there is, a lot of agent outreach, a lot of wholesalers and flippers, looking on market. And it really gets back to, I think, quality over quantity, especially if a lot of wholesalers are just getting started. Make sure you find those right people in the market that you're in. I suggest, if you can be in the market that is in your backyard, because you're able to go look, you're able to go see. Now, if you're scaling and doing some virtual markets, as I said, again, it's really just building those relationships, adding those value, and how you said it. So let's pivot to agents. Agents working with investors, with interest rates and low inventory mini markets, what can agents do? You have an army of teams, you work with huge people that run huge teams and consult them. What would your advice be to have them supplement or make more income to work with investors? What strategies would you give if there's agents on this webinar right now?
This season is different than the last season we were in. And the last season we were in was fish jumping in the boat. I think that real estate and wholesaling and investing for people in the last few years was all much easier than what it is right now. This is a bigger challenge. And so if an agent wants to align with an investor, I think that the agent has to have a higher level of a value proposition than just the MLS, as I was alluding to before. If an agent can be the hunter instead of the person waiting for the deals to come to them, that means marketing dollars. Here's the greatest thing that we do. We offer for every single one of our sellers, we say, are you looking for maximum convenience or maximum value? We just dumb it down to a really easy piece. And most people are looking for maximum value. A traditional home seller, in our experiences, if we get 5 at-bats from somebody, or from mailer that we would do as an example, if we would get 5 at-bats from people, we'd find that 1 of the 5 five would sell directly to us because I was that wholesaler. I was that investor. I was the guy that was buying the property. So one of the five would go directly to us. One of the five would list with us traditionally, and they wanted to get maximum value. The other three, they wanted maximum value and maximum convenience. They wanted to have their cake and eat it too. Go figure, right? And so that meant that they're just going into what we call purgatory for us for a little while, is that they're not one way or the other, but we're going to continue to market to them. And I think that's the distinct advantage that most realtors have that a lot of investors don't, is that we're playing the long game in terms of developing our database, and we have systems and strategies that continue to massage and work those people to continue to stay in front of them, because it's been a quieter year this year. I think we've only bought 7 houses, but 5 of those came from appointments that we had like 9 months ago and beyond. And so that's where I think an agent can come in and really benefit some investors, is the fact that we're playing to find the listing. We're playing to find the deal if somebody wants to get rid of it quickly. And we need to be able to have dollars that tie to it. So when I present this to realtors and I'll tell them, all right, I think that you need to start offering this buy it now offer, a guaranteed sale type of thing for folks. Their question is, well, I don't have that money. Where am I going to find that money? And I'm like, well, you could talk to a hard money lender. You could talk to your own lender. You could find an investor. And that's, I think, the golden ticket for so many of you listening right now, is that you could be that investor. Most realtors are terrible with money. Did you know that the average realtor makes about $45,000 to $50,000 a year?
Okay.
That's the average realtor. And yet there are so many that are making less than that, and very few that are making north of $100,000 a year. Most realtors aren't investing in real estate because they're bad with money and they're just riding the commission wave. And so if you can build a relationship with that person, they have the sellers that you need. It's simply making sure that that realtor can now offer the maximum convenience or the maximum value, but ultimately the seller gets to choose what's best for them. And that's where I think wholesalers have a loss of opportunity, is they only have one club in their golf bag. All they have is the driver. And sometimes they're in situations where other things are needed and offered. And that's where partnership with an agent can really come into play, and vice versa on that too.
Just for agents in general, what are a few effective ways to grow beyond their sphere?
So I think that there are 4 ways in which an agent can go and get business. The first is PCSOI, that's past client and sphere of influence. That is the most powerful, best leg to your stool that you can have. The second is low-hanging fruit. These are high-cost leads. And these high-cost leads, I think, are pretty irresponsible. Zillow, Realtor.com, Ojo, Dave Ramsey, HomeLight. These leads are pretty expensive. And in fact, they're coming in now and taking anywhere from 35 to 40% of the commission on these. So they've even stopped charging. And that's just so much money to get a piece of business, because agents aren't creative enough. They're just sitting around waiting and expecting, again, fish to jump into the boat. The third is the long-term nurture. These are people who maybe a neighborhood that you're farming. It could be pay-per-click or forced registration types of things. These take in an inordinate amount of time. In fact, so most people aren't playing the long-term game well enough. But this last one, I said there's 4 legs to the stool here. So again, PCSOI, low-hanging fruit, long-term nurtures, those are the 3. But number 4 is my favorite, where I think agents are missing out on an opportunity right now, and that is reputation business. I'm going to put it into a couple of buckets. One is reviews online. The king of review sites is Google. It used to not be Google, but Google is the king of review sites now. We're buying everything in a review culture now of what random strangers have said about this. And Google is king, Zillow is queen, and Facebook is the princess.
Couldn't agree more. All right, let's move to some general questions. So this will be a 2-part question, since you are both a realtor and an investor. What advice would you give to, let's start with a realtor that's getting started, and then what advice would you give to an investor wholesaler just getting started?
If you are starting out as a realtor, I think your greatest move is to start on a real estate team, not as a solo agent. There's a lot to learn in this industry that your real estate class will never teach you. And getting your first clients are really difficult. When I got into real estate, I had a huge database. I've lived in Fargo, North Dakota my entire life. After I graduated from college, I worked at one of the largest churches in the area. And then I got my real estate license. I'm like, well, boy, so many people know me. It's going to transcend into so many people working with me. But I had not yet developed the savvy of being a great salesperson. And so they didn't trust me in that yet. And so real estate teams quite often are helping teaching and showing how you can get your first clients, as well as sometimes they're just handing them to you. And so you're only going to be great as a realtor if you're actually choosing to get a number of at-bats right away. So if you're going to get into real estate, I think joining a team and finding the right kind of partner and mentor is imperative. So for investors, here's what my advice would be is if you don't have enough money to buy a place yourself, find somebody else to buy it with. But the biggest mistake you can make is inaction. If you're waiting to find the perfect house, it's not going to come along. If you're waiting for it to be a 10 out of 10, if it is, every other investor is going to want it as well.
Yeah. Or wholesale. Like you could wholesale it, you could buy it, you could flip it. If you're looking to flip, find someone to partner with. If you're looking to wholesale, then just go wholesale and find those good investors or work with those great agents that have those investor clients that you don't have yet. Like at the beginning, everyone wants to make all this money as an agent or as an investor. My best advice is find some mentors. They're going to cost you with their resources or with their time, but they're going to teach you to do it the right way if you have the right mentor. And it doesn't need to say you have to go pay for a course. I'm saying find the right people in your sphere to work with, that they will naturally mentor you, that they will naturally help you. If you need courses and all these things and hand-holding, that's great, or want to be a part of the community. But the most successful people that I've seen that have really taken off, they're not waiting for someone to tell them what to do. They're just going to go do it. And if they're not sure, they're going to ask, and then they're going to go from there. So as a real estate coach, what are the most common challenges that your clients are facing today? And how are you helping them solve those problems?
If you understand, when people were choosing to buy and sell previously, it was out of both need and want. I think that most people that are selling right now and buying right now are out of need and not out of want. And so here's what surrounds real estate is death, divorce, diplomas, diapers, you name it. If it starts with D, it probably surrounds why people choose to move. And right now, if they're choosing to sell, they're choosing to forego their current 3% interest rate to jump into a 6 or 7% interest rate. And they're doing so out of pain. And I would tell you this is one of the flaws that investors and wholesalers have is that the numbers are the driver more than the relationship is the driver. And to understand that most sellers are going through traumatic life experiences, and the more you can spend working with them in some empathetic connecting sorts of ways, the greater that you can win. And so we understand that our touch points now, we have to be that much more nurturing to these people and that much more of a patient partner as opposed to a pushy prospector with them. So whether it be working with buyers and sellers as a realtor or working with buyers and sellers as a wholesaler or investor, I think that we have to have much more delicate, our approach needs to be much more delicate and ginger now than it ever had been.
That's a great answer. Same question for an investor or wholesaler. If they were to implement one thing this week that could create impact or change, what would you advise?
So I'm not sure that there's a change that you can make this week that's going to constitute the growth that you need. After a week of lead generation, you're not going to start seeing business. And after a week of posting content on social media and YouTube, you're not going to start seeing business traditionally. This game is won by doing the boring stuff regularly. Consistency and discipline on repeat. And if you can lean into consistency and discipline, you're going to have much better results than anybody else. Because I'll say this, and you were kind enough to lift me up as a real estate coach. Here's what I coach on. It's no complication. It's no Rubik's Cube that can't be figured out. 20% is, do you know what to actually put on your schedule? Do you know what's really important, and get super clear on the most important things? That's 20% of it. 50% of it is actually doing what you say you're going to do on your schedule. Half of it, I am a high paid babysitter. The remaining 30% is just dealing with people. Real estate is easy. People are complicated. So the first 70% is all you. The last 30% is you with other people. This is a people game, and you can know your numbers all you want, but if you don't know people, you're not going to get very far. And if you don't know yourself, you're not going to get very far.
So I would agree with that. There's nothing that we could change in a week. What you can change is changing your habits. I hope we were able to add value for you folks today. Erik, I greatly appreciate you spending time out of your very busy day to add some value to some of the people that were here. Until next time, let's get it.